Chapter 1795. Extreme Cold. Zhang Yi has been on standby for a week. During this period, the alien troops from other countries who came to support have gained something. Of course, this gain is not without cost. Fighting against a legion of tens of thousands of mechanical life forms is still very difficult, and there are casualties. However, their gains can undoubtedly make up for this part of the loss. Just talking about the technology of mechanical life forms, as long as it can be cracked, it is worth it even if many people die. Only Fremons has grabbed a lot of benefits without any sacrifice. Bodaga was very proud at this time, but there was one thing that made him feel strange. Why haven't the people of Huaxi come to me for so long? He frowned and couldn't figure out why they could be so patient. In his imagination, Zhang Yi would come to him and ask Bodaga to give him a chance to fight because he saw that other countries had obtained a lot of spoils. But Zhang Yi was too calm. He had been in Samran City all this time. At most, he went to Alexei to drink and chat, but he never went to Bodaga and other administrative officials to ask for a fight. Could it be that he saw through our purpose? Vladimir said. Bodaga narrowed his eyes and was silent for a long time. But everyone knows that there is no free lunch in the world. I am really surprised that he can resist such a great temptation. No one knows the mechanical civilization better than Fremons. They are moving in the vast land of Fremons, looking for something special. And the seemingly huge and dangerous mechanical army is just an engineering unit. The most dangerous guys only took action once last time because they used the god of death of love to effect their construction. But since then, they have never appeared again. And if you want to solve the problems facing Fremons, sooner or later you will have to face those humanoid creatures. Otherwise, there is no need to ask for help from the whole world for just those mechanical armies. Aliev took 2 puffs of his cigar and said, "At present, as long as we don't use those large-scale lethal weapons, the combat arms of the mechanical civilization will not appear." After all, he paused for a moment and said in an uncertain tone, "This world has a strong rejection of those civilized creatures hidden underground. As powerful as the gatekeeper of the underworld and the white dragon, they dare not use their power on the ground." That thrilling battle lasted less than 30 seconds, and they had to leave the surface and return to the underground world. Vladimir looked at him and asked in a deep voice, "If that's the case, we can also let the Pantheon go." Podagia immediately said, "No. Morana must stay in Samran City. We need her to protect our safety." Vladimir said, "Let others go. We can't watch the alien troops of other countries eat meat, although they don't need to do anything to get 30% of the benefits." But after a week, seeing that the alien troops of other countries had gained a lot of benefits in Fremons, they were still somewhat dissatisfied and wanted to take all the spoils for themselves. Vladimir exhaled a large puff of smoke, leaned leisurely on the red sofa, and said, "After all, now we have an advantage that other countries do not have. That is, we have found a way to deal with the defense field of mechanical life forms. They have been in contact with mechanical life forms for half a year, which is enough time for them to achieve good research results." Bodaga discussed with Aliev and Vladimir for a while, and considering that the situation is relatively stable now, they decided to send the strong men of the Temple of the Gods to lead a team to attack a mechanical army. But who should we send? Morana can't leave us. She must put our safety first. What about that guy Perrin? Vladimir shook his head. He doesn't belong to the military. He seems dull, but he actually has his own ideas. I hate guys with independent ideas. Maybe he will refuse our command, Podaga said. If neither of them can go, we have to let Jizerberg go. Hearing this name, Vladimir and Aliev nodded with satisfaction. Moon goddess Jizerberg, the one with the second highest talent in the pantheon after winter goddess Morana. He was once expected to become one of the 3 giants in the pantheon. Later, after the war in Huaxi Kingdom, the part of the Black Bishop level origin they got was given to Jizerberg, making him a strong man of the Black Chariot level. All this was naturally hidden from Alexei, who was still recovering from his injuries at the time, and later gave him some other things as compensation. Today, Jizerberg's ability index has a trend of surpassing Alexei. Then let him take charge of this operation. Vladimir smiled and nodded. He is one of ours after all. That day, a powerful Fremon's Inhumans troop left Samarin City and headed to the Northwest Federation to fight against the mechanical life forms. Zhang Yi was sitting in the living room at this time, playing with the silver pistol made by God in his hand. It felt heavy in the hand. As long as he pulled the trigger, it could fire a powerful bullet. This kind of thing. It is the easiest to give Zhang Yi a sense of security. It's about time. Zhang Yi moved his hand, and the divine refining immediately turned into a silver bracelet and circled his wrist. Yang Xinxin sat next to Zhang Yi, drinking hot coffee quietly. After coming here, they used all the food and clothing they brought with them. In the bitter cold land of Fremons, even the food enjoyed by the top leaders is far inferior to the food stored in Zhang Yi's alien space. Indeed, it should be about time. Yang Xinxin replied to Zhang Yi's words. The two looked at each other, and there were surging waves in their calm eyes. Those who play with fire will be swallowed by the flames sooner or later. Fremons uses the alien troops of various countries as a fuse to ignite the bomb of mechanical civilization, but I don't know whether they can bear the consequences. Northwest Federation Region, Ordo City. This is a city that has been completely abandoned by Fremons. The emergence of mechanical civilization has made the top leaders choose to concentrate their forces and limited resources to protect their lives and property. This city in the far northwest is no longer guarded. The whistling cold wind cuts through the city's roads like the god of death, bringing endless despair. On the street, frozen dead bodies can be seen everywhere. At this time, there is no big difference between being on the street and hiding at home. The faucet in their home has long been frozen. In order to survive, they must go outside to get food and water. The supermarket has long been emptied, and the well has been frozen by the cold, but there is always food and fuel here. Two people wrapped in thick cotton clothes walked out of the corridor. Their steps were very slow, like two zombies. There was no trace of blood on their pale faces, and there was no emotion in their numb eyes. They seemed to be a couple. The two people staggered like penguins and moved forward. Their goal was clear, a black wood lying on the ground dozens of meters away. The cold wind wrapped in ice and snow blew through the street, like a knife cutting their bodies. In just a few dozen meters, the couple walked for a long time. Without saying a word, they walked to the end of the black wood and bent down with great difficulty to grab the cloth on the wood. It turned out that this was not a piece of wood, but a frozen corpse. The couple looked no different from the corpse on the ground, but they still dragged the corpse back along the ground with great effort. They dragged the corpse for dozens of meters and had to stop every 2 steps. Their hands had been frostbitten for a long time, and only a few of their 10 fingers were left, so it was very difficult to grab things. So even if it was a corpse as thin as a piece of wood, they had to drag it for a long time. The corpse slipped from their hands again and again, but there was no expression of anxiety or disappointment on their faces. They had no emotions, only the instinct of survival. After more than 10 minutes of busy work, the corpse was only dragged less than 2 meters. The couple looked at each other and knew that they had to go back, otherwise the cold wind outside would swallow them. But they stood there, motionless. If they stayed, they would die, and if they went back, they would still freeze and die of hunger. Finally, the husband turned around and walked towards the house step by step. The wife was behind him, watching him quietly. Plop. Her husband fell to the ground when he was about to reach the door. And once a person falls here, it is impossible to get up again. A layer of light gradually rose in the numb eyes of the wife. Her steps were faster than usual. She came to her husband, looked at him for a while, opened the door, and walked into the room. After a while, she came out with a white bone and knocked her husband's arm hard. One arm was knocked off easily. She slowly bent down and held the arm. There was firewood and dinner for tonight. Suddenly, the frozen city shook violently. Those dead wood-like buildings shook, tilted, and then collapsed. A silver-white mechanical life form crawled out of the cracks in the ground. Its 2 long mechanical arms supported its head, like a huge ostrich without a head. After that, more and more mechanical life forms of various shapes appeared in the city. Their eyes swept across the city, and then a mechanical life form directly fired an energy cannon from the control center, destroying a towering building. After the building collapsed, a large number of small engineering mechanical life forms rushed over and quickly cleaned up the building debris. Inside the house, the wife who had just started a fire and was about to make a barbecue looked out the window numbly. A huge one-eyed mechanical life form looked into her eyes. There was no emotion in the wife's eyes, and even the fear of death disappeared. The mechanical life form just glanced at her and ignored her existence. But the next moment, a huge engineering machine behind her destroyed the entire building. For those who are still alive, this is a relief. At least they don't have the courage to die. And for those mechanical life forms, they are just for their own work, clearing away everything around them that hinders their work. Humans? No different from these bricks and tiles. Soon, the entire city was completely occupied by the mechanical army without any resistance. Their work efficiency is very high, but this mainly depends on a super-large mechanical life form that appears in the city. It is like a huge mobile working platform, standing. In the center of Ordo City, 8 mechanical limbs supported the ground, and then many slender mechanical arms extended from the torso, all with various tools. There were also a large number of small mechanical life forms jumping out of its belly and scattered all over the city. Tens of thousands of mechanical life forms began their busy work, cleaning up garbage, digging the ground, and using special radiation instruments to detect the energy reaction of the ground. A few hours later, the entire Ordo City was cleaned up, and all traces of human activities were gone. A huge deep pit appeared in the city, and it had been dug to a depth of tens of meters. Boom! In the sky, the sound of breaking through the air came from far to near. 5 of the world's most advanced carriers, F-37, appeared near Ordo City. Fremon's alien army, Krufa, finally arrived here. Led by the moon god Jesberg of the Temple of the Gods, they are going to attack this mechanical army that destroyed the city of Fremons and killed the people of Fremons. Jesberg looked down from the sky. The huge mechanical army in front of him was working in an orderly manner, but they had obviously discovered these human planes. However, they only took a look and lowered their heads to continue working, not taking these planes or humans into consideration at all. Jesberg raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. They do have such strength. After dealing with mechanical civilization for half a year, Fremons knew very well how strong they were. Even now, when the alien troops from all over the world arrived in Fremons and fought against them, most of the teams suffered a lot. Only a very small number of teams such as Chaos suffered very little loss or even no damage. Imagine that these are tens of thousands of aliens above the deputy captain level who are not afraid of death, and a super-large mechanical life form with the combat power of a black chariot. If the mechanical civilization is willing, any mechanical army can sweep across most of the countries in the world. But now, the situation is different. Fremon's troops came prepared, and they already knew how to deal with the defensive force field of the mechanical army. As long as it is cracked, these guys with steel and iron bones will not be so difficult to deal with. Let's get started. Jesselberg ordered in a deep voice with a belligerent smile on his face. 4 of the 5 F-37s immediately dispersed and flew towards the surroundings of the entire city of Alto. Dear viewers, please subscribe if not already. Do like and comment. Thanks.